All right, I think I got it. I don't know. We'll see. Still having trouble with this chat thing, but what are you gonna do? Hey everybody, welcome. So now, I don't know what's happening. All messages are visible. Alright, well, we'll see what happens there. When somebody sends a message, we'll see what happens. Still working on that. All right, welcome everybody. So just kind of noodling around. So as I mentioned, I think last week and also I think on Tuesday's show, the beginner's show, we actually did a lot of upper beginner stuff on Tuesday because we pretty much spent the whole time yeah, see, they're still not staying. The chat's still not staying on my screen, so I don't know. Still can't figure that out. But anyways, hey everybody. So we talked about Tuesday. We got into the whole world of bar chords, and you know, if something you actually absolutely want to do, then sure, go ahead. But we talked about the myths, some of the things that they say that they're so easy and on and on. And they're not. I mean, they will get easy for those of you that are in the middle of working out your bar chord thing. But again, huge, huge, huge again, you don't need those, all right? Okay, just so you know, that's the last I'm going to say. All right, so I promise that today, now, you know, we've covered this before, and I think the people that are with me quite a bit understand that there's a constant influx of new people that are finding the channel, finding me. The lives pop up. Hello, Jerry. The lives pop up on people. They don't know what's going on. They check it out. Some don't care, and others, hey, they find it pretty cool and helpful, right? So, of course, because of the nature of YouTube and all these social media things, there's always new people. So there is going to be some form of repetition, right? For those of you that follow every show, you know that there's going to be segments where, we've already gone over this and stuff, and that's just the way it is. I am pretty sure you understand, right? So today, what we're going to do, this is for people. Well, there's a few of you that this is for. People that you're playing chords, maybe even bar chords, who knows? And you're moving along just fine. Cool. Thanks. Appreciate it. You're moving along Pretty good, right? Okay. Now, I always tell you when you're starting, ignore all the distractions. Ignore all those videos that you see that are just, come on, play, play scales, play lead guitar. Come, shred that fretboard. Come, learn triads. All right, we've got to stop getting distracted as beginners in our first year at least, and just concentrate on the task at hand, which, as you know, is the guitar foundation. Building a solid foundation between our hands, left and right, our ear and our brain, and getting them all working, much like that of a juggler, right? Think of all that's going on when you see those guys juggling 4 bowling pins that are set on fire, right? It looks difficult, and it is difficult, but with constant motor skills training and sharpening, you can make it look really simple. And that's what the guitar is, right? At any level, is once we get this going with this and this, and it's just a well lubricated, oiled machine. Once we're able to do that, right? Anything on the guitar, honestly, gets pretty easy. And the only caveat to that would be if you still haven't learned any theory. Now, I'm not talking about 3 months in, 6 months in, a year in. Heck, hey, listen, don't tell nobody this. But I was playing songs. I was going to do gigs in coffee shops, little 2-hour gigs where I'd sit and play, mostly covers and a few songs that I had written at the time. And I didn't know any theory at all. Hey, Dermot, how are you, buddy? I'm having trouble with my chat. It doesn't stay on screen. So if I don't reply to some messages right away, it's because I haven't seen them. Once in a while, I tap the screen and then the messages show up and I can answer. But so sorry about that. I'm not ignoring anybody. I got to get this straightened out on my iPad here. So, all right, now, right, we've got to get that guitar foundation going. And once we do, the days of struggling and painful, lesson type things that we learn are pretty much over because well, I guess I love you too. Right? So that's what we need to spend our first year on, if not longer. But again, I was going out playing and I didn't know any theory. Okay? What key is this chord progression in? Well, at that time that you just heard me play in the opening there, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. Because like now I can look at the chords and, figure out where the minors and majors are and say, okay, this is the key that this is in. I couldn't do that then. All right. So for those of you that don't know any theory, for those of you that are knowing that you got to go to the next step, this is for you today, right? Because we're not going to really depend on scales. Now, I think most of you, me included, at one point, thought that if I don't know scales, then I can't play licks, riffs, lead guitar, or any of that stuff. Now, there's no doubt that knowing your scales definitely makes it easier, I guess, or, makes it all make more sense. But remember, a scale really is just, it's a name we've given to something because somebody back in the day said that these 7 notes belong to this scale. And this scale is called the major scale, let's say. Therefore, if you're in A and you want to play the major scale, then you have to play the notes A, right? B, C sharp, and on and on. And they assign these based on the formula 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1, and that's the major scale. So if you're playing in a band, or you want to play a song like note for note, like you want to play, you're serious and you want to do a cover that's exactly like the original, then you have to do what they do. And there's a good chance that the lead guitarist played a scale in that song. You've got to do that in order to replicate it. But if you're not keen on playing note for note, you just want to get the general vibe of the riff, lick, or lead, you can play anything that gets that job done. Now, a scale is really just a series of notes in order, right? You don't have to play them in order, but the scale is shown to you and taught to you in order, whatever that formula says. But the note will start A, and it will go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? That's a scale. Now, it might not be the correct scale. I mean, if it was A, as we know, it would be A, B, C sharp, D, you know what I'm saying? But because that's the component of that scale. But we can also play along to music doing it the way I just mentioned. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G, A, and just keep going, just like a piano. A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then it's the same notes in the same order, but an octave higher, and then an octave higher, an octave higher. We can do that with the guitar, okay? In fact, that's how I started. I just never got my head around scales. I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand this. I didn't understand why is it here when I play here? How am I going to use this if I play my open chords here? Like, what do I do? Do I jump back and forth? Like, what do I do? All right, so today we're going to talk about all that and show you that you don't have to play a scale to sound good and play a scale, okay? And we're going to do it slowly. I think I've got a pretty good track picked out that will help us here. Now, when you start doing things like this, you want to be as slow and controlled as possible, okay? So don't put on something at 160 beats per minute, da 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 da, and expect you got to like sit there and play all the notes and keep in time, right? Don't do that. Okay? So for those of you that don't really know what's going on, here's what's going on. When a guitarist or anybody, right, has to add riffs, licks, and leads to a piece, whether it's a long chord progression like I have, or you're in a band or whatever, you're writing a song, you have some choices. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you this chord progression, and we're going to play the A minor pentatonic because it fits. This is from the key of C, all right? And what we're going to do is show you, I'm the guitarist, and I've decided that we're going to play, or I'm going to write a lead in using A minor pentatonic. So I've made that decision, okay? So if that's the case, we all know from past lessons that we have to play those 5 notes of the A minor pentatonic, right? A, C, D, E, G, okay? In any order, in any way, in no order at all. We could play the A, then we can go down here and play the A here. I can play anywhere. All those notes are going to work, okay? So here I am. I've written this lead, okay? All right, I don't think we're going to make any money off of that, but it's just an example to show you that I use the notes from the A minor pentatonic scale, the notes and the shape. The same shape we all learned, it seems like day one, right? Okay. Now, this goes into a song, right? And it goes out and it sells 1,000,000 copies and it makes me a lot of money, right? Okay. Then you come along and you go, hey, I like that song by RAYRAY. I am going to learn that song. All right, so you do your homework and you find out that I use the A minor pentatonic scale to make my lead. Maybe it's a middle 8, middle 16, the little lead in the middle, right? Furthermore, I would have used the same scale, albeit maybe played in different parts and only certain notes, but I would have used the same notes from the minor pentatonic scale to play little riffs in between, like the verse and the chorus, or, whatever, right? All throughout the song. Hey, have a good day. Bum, 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 bum. That little, what we would call a lick or a riff, that would be played in those notes, but maybe somewhere else on the fretboard. So you, as a student, and wanted to learn my song and play it note for note or a reasonable general facsimile of it, you'd have to play the A minor pentatonic to sound realistic or original. But at the end of the day, you don't have to do that. That's only if you want to sound like me, right? I don't know why you would, but you know what I mean? So, all right. Now, we can listen to any song and do anything as a lead, riff, lick, or whatever that we want to if we're not trying to copy or match or replicate. So that's the thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand is that, oh, well, I got to play the A minor pentatonic with this thing or whatever. No, only if you're trying to replicate and they play the A minor pentatonic. Okay? As long as it works, as long as it sounds good, as long as it makes sense, you can play anything you want. And here's what I suggest as a brand new jumping in to the pool lead guitar player. The first thing you need to find out, what is the key of the song? So in this case, this is why I picked this, because the chord progression here is A minor, F, C, and G. Now, those are all chords from the key of C. Okay? Now, if this was a different key, for example, so let's say, how do I know it was the key of C? Well, because in the key of C, the 1, 4, 5 are the major chords, right? That's the reality. The 1, 4, 5 is in our the major chords, and the other chords are minor. So if this was the key of G, the F in here would be probably a diminished, some sort of a diminished, because it would be actually the 7th chord, all right, in the scale or in the family, right? Because we have G would be 1, and then A minor would be 2, and then there's no B, that would be 3, and then there's a 4 is a C, and a D is 5. So it's actually this C, and a G would be G minor. So we're not in the key of G. We're in the key of C, right? Now, but A minor is the first chord. So don't be fooled that the first chord always has to be the key. Sometimes it is, mostly it is, but it doesn't have to be. Now in this case, you got this double thing going on because C and A minor are relatives, right? A minor is the relative minor to C. So that means you can actually, if the key is A minor, you can play a C scale, a C bass scale. And if it's in C, you could play an A bass scale because they share, right? They're relatives. They all get along well. But in this case, we're going to go by either or. So I'm going to show you that it'll sound proper in both, whichever way we attack this. So now we know the key. If you don't know the key, go by the first chord, right? So in this case, the first chord is an A minor. So I'm going to start my leads, riffs, and solos off of A. Okay, now if this was a D minor, F, F sharp or F sharp major, minor, or B or whatever, okay, then I would probably start in D, the first chord, right? So unless I knew exactly what the key. Well, okay, this is the key of B. All right, so I'm going to start in B. Now, what does that mean when you say start in A? Uh, um Start in A, start in B, start in C. Well, to be honest, it all sounds like there's some big fancy thing you got to go through, but all it means is play A as the first note. Okay? So, what you can do, what I do is I throw on Radio Paradise. It's an internet radio station. So I throw that on. There's no talking. They just play songs. Okay? And they play anything. Anything. Like you name it, they'll play it. Okay? And I'll listen. And which we're going to do at the end of this lesson. I'll use my fretboard to find or try to find the key of the song. And once I've done that, once I've found that note, then I start playing off that note. So if I find that the B note sounds best, whenever I strike it, I hear that synergy with the music that's playing, I'm going to say, okay, this is in B, right? So then I'm going to do my solo, my leads off of B. Well, that means I'm going to start on B, okay? Then what I'll do is I'll take my phone, get the name of the song, and quickly do a, what's the key of whatever song, and see if I'm right. And at first I wasn't, I was maybe half and half, but as I got better, and as I did it more often, I became 90 to 100% right every time that I found the matching. You hear it with your ear when you hit that note, which we're gonna see here. When we hit that note, and you hear that synergy with the music that's playing or that you want to play to. So that's the note. That's what I call the key note. Now I have video about this in my channel, by the way. Okay, and that's the one that I will start with. Okay, so now we've got a starting point, but let's back up and stick to this chord progression. So we have A minor, F, C, G. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, A minor is the first chord. I'm going to start in A. Okay, that's where we're going to do this. So I'm not going to play scales. I'm going to play what I call the Ray scale. Okay, now I don't know what this is. It's very pentatonic-y, but it's not. But then again, everything's pentatonic-y, right? Two over, two down, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start on A, and then I'm going to get my next note is going to be 2 frets higher. So already we're not pentatonic, because if it was pentatonic, I'd be 3 frets higher, and I'd be playing the A, C, right? A, C, D, E, G. Right? Those are the notes of the minor pentatonic. But I'm not doing that, right? I'm just starting on A, and I'm going to go up 2 to B, okay? Then I'm going to go under here, right? And 2 over again. So now I got a little box. I call that a 4-note box off of my root or key note. Key note meaning this is the key that I think it's in, and this is the key that I want to play in, okay? So I'm in the key of A. Even though the chord is A minor, it's an A, right? So I got this little 4-note box based on the theory of 2 over, 1 string down, and 2 over. A little box, okay? Now if I go again, we already know that this string gives me my octave. So now I've got A here and A here. So that means I can play right up to that A. So now I got a 6-note box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Almost, in fact, all of those notes will sound good. All right? And let's show you. Right? Now, I think you can hear that it works, right? Now, I was just playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you were to put some thought into this and use your ear, this is where your ears come in from your guitar training, your guitar foundation. Up until now, our guitar foundation has been left hand or right hand, and our ear, okay, fine, that C sounded good, it didn't sound good. But now we really got to trust our ear. We got to bring our ear into play, okay? Because if we do something like that, if we're playing and we do, there's going to be certain notes that if we play them when the certain chord is playing in this progression, they're going to sound really cool. Like if we can play an A note whenever the A minor chord comes up, we're going to sound good. And whenever we play an F, whenever, that kind of thing. It's not always exact, but we're going to sound really good. And the only way to match like that is to practice and to listen. Okay, so here's what happens when you don't play the right note. Good, good. You hear it right away, okay? So that's where the guitar foundation, the ear part, really kicks in. So here we have even though we're not in perfect sync, playing the right notes over the right chords at this point, it still sounds okay. Nobody's gonna say, hey dude, I mean, oh, you're way off. Nobody's gonna say that. So we got our foot in the water right now, okay? All right. Now, where do we go from here? Okay, so we go down to the octave. Now eventually you might realize that maybe this note here, before the octave, isn't the greatest sounding note. So then you would adjust and you would skip that note. But that's for later when you put your own spin on things, all right? So right now we're going down to the octave. Now we're at A. Now if we slide over and replace where this finger was on A, slide over 2 frets and put our ring finger where our forefinger where our ring finger is. Now what we've done is we've essentially now, we're going to start all over again. A, B, and now this is where playing the notes, not the 5, 7, 5, 7. We don't want to do that. Because if we go 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, we'll never know that that's A, B, D, E, G, A. We'll just know them as 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. Okay, and eventually, you're going to have to get off that horse. Right? You got to know your notes moving forward. If you want to get into soloing, lead guitar, riffs and licks and that kind of stuff, you've got to know your notes, you've got to know your fretboard. Okay? And that's not going to happen overnight. So this is the start of it. Now, we slide over. Now this note is our A, just like that note. And the next note, well, you guessed it, will be a B. Just like this note. So A, B, now we play A, B. And we go down here, and we play this note here, and there's our D, E. So A, B, D, E becomes A, B, D, E, right? Now, we cross the border. Now, remember about crossing the border, right? Whenever we cross the border, that's between the bronze and the silver strings, we've got to play the silver, like whatever notes we want to play on those silver strings, they're going to be 1 fret higher, right? So quickly, for those of you that don't know, if we're playing C and F, right? We're playing C, F, B flat, or A sharp. C, F, B flat. Now, if I was to start here, okay, on this C, and go down and play F, B flat. Well, that's not an F and that's not a B flat because we have to move. So C, if I want to play an F, I got to come over when I cross that border between the, right? And I have good video on this on my channel too about under fretboard theory. And now there's our F, okay? And then of course there's our B flat right under it. Once we cross the border, then we can play under each other again. But crossing that border, we got to make a shift. We got to make a quick detour up, right? All right, so now that we know that, A to the octave of A, right? slide everything over, same notes, A, B, right? D, E, slide over, there's our G and our A, okay? Okay, so we got that. So now we have, and then we have, those are the exact same notes. The only difference is these are slightly higher because they're in a higher place on the guitar. So once again, slide over and repeat. And there's our A. So we ended an A and we started an A. And that gives us a little nice little run. Okay? So all we've done is played the same 6 notes just next to each other. Never mind if it's pentatonic, minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, that's out the window at this point. We're just playing notes in an ascending or descending order to show you that it works. So let's put our chord progression back on. Right? We'll start at the top. There's those 6 notes. Slide over. Back to where we started. You can hear that there's the synergy there, right, that we're looking for, right? So now we could, anywhere in this song, we could do something like, we don't have to play all those notes, remember? We could do something like this. As long as we stay within those notes that we just played, we could do something like this. I'm just, whatever, right? But you can see that it works. And with a bit of practice, you can make this sound like gold, right? Here, we'll turn her up just a touch. See what we can get up to. Right? Now, it doesn't have to end there, right? So we ran out of room. We ran out of real estate, basically, right? So we went. Now we can go over again. Remember, whenever you have a good note, I've always told you this, whatever that good note is, wherever it is, you can always, almost 99.5% of the time, go up one more, like 2 more frets, 1 more step, right? 1 whole step. And that'll be fine. Now, again, if you're playing a certain scale, you might not be able to do that. Like if I was playing minor pentatonic right now, I couldn't slide from that A to B because B isn't a note in the minor pentatonic. And that's where the relevance is. If there's no issues of scales, right? Remember, the minor pentatonic or the major pentatonic or the major scale or the blues scale or whatever it is put together to create a certain aura, like a sound, a vibe, right? And if you play any of those notes in that scale, you're going to stick and enhance that vibe. That's the way I look at it. Okay? So in this case, if I was playing the pentatonic, I'd have to stay within that pentatonic vibe. So here, it would have to be like this. right? I have to stay in the pentatonic thing, and that will produce that certain sound, right, that this doesn't. It's just a different sound. I mean, the notes still work, but it's a little bit different. Okay? So again, that's the difference and relevance of staying and playing a scale, and why you should learn at least a couple of scales. So that way, if you knew, say, the minor and the major, so if you knew the minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic or the major scale, and just two, a minor and a major, that's all you need. I've always said the minor pentatonic is like the all-purpose flower of chords, of keys, or of scales. You can play it pretty much over anything in any genre, and it'll sound more than passable, sound pretty good, right? Okay, so this Ray scale, we'll call it, is kind of the same thing. It's a cookie-cutter way of playing notes to songs, playing some sort of an accoutrement, like fancy music word, like a play along, like a riff or a lick, an accoutrement, right? All right, it's like having a little tapas with your meal, or a little dip for your $50 steak or something. You know, it's an accoutrement, right? So, all right, now, and remember, the whole idea of playing notes to a song, a backing track, or whatever, and making it sound decent is to stay in the key, to stay in the path, the octave path of the note. So for example, here, I started in A. So now, could I do this? I could probably go... I mean, probably, but the problem is that we are playing off of the A note because the songs have chords in them that these notes play with. And if I go off my beaten track, if I go off that A octave thing, then I could hit one of those, you remember those notes? Remember the notes that don't belong, and it makes your ear, and you go, ooh, and we all hear it. I mean, you know, you're out somewhere and you're playing and someone hits a bad note. I mean, I just saw a video floating around of Metallica, and they're starting a song, and James Hetfield is picking his acoustic guitar, and the other guitar player is in a different key, and he's doing his little riff, and it just sounds like, two cats, you know, murdering each other in the middle of the night. It's horrible. And that's the note, that's the you know, you do run that possibility if you stray off course. Now, that does not mean you can't go and pick a note and come back. So that means A, B, if I come down to this A, and instead of going down again, like to follow that course, right? Hi, Kay. Instead of doing that, you might go like this. And you might take that one here and then go back on the track. So in other words, it's like a pathway through the woods. So as you're walking the pathway, there might be just a little clearing to go to a rock and look out into the water. You do your look, you look in the water, but you come right back to the path so that you can keep going. Now you can do that, and your ear and your experience will tell you when and if you can do that. 9 times out of 10, you can do that, right? But again, you could be setting yourself up for a landmine. Oh, I didn't get that message there. But you could be setting yourself up to step on a landmine too, right? So again, let's keep where we're at here. So we're in A, and we're doing the 2 over, 2 down till we get to the octave. We're sliding over. Now this recreates that note set. And remember, that's all a scale does. So when you play a scale, you got to play in A minor pentatonic, A, C, D, E, G. That's what you got to play. A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G. And as long as you play A, C, D, E, G, you're just grooving, right? Okay. So if you play a scale, you got to stick to that. If you're playing like this, you should, as I said, stick to whatever chords those are, so, or whatever keys those are, so, or notes those are. So for example, in this case, A, B, D, E, G, A. A, B, D, E, G. A, B, D, E, G, A. Right? If I start here, A, B, D, G, A. Or I'm sorry, A, B, D, E, right? F sharp. And here it would be A, B, D, E, F sharp, right? We can do that. Sounds okay. Back to A. So we are still following the same idea of a scale, right? Only play these 5 notes. Only play these 7 notes of the major scale. You don't have to play them in any order, but you got to play those 7. If you play an extra note or a different note, it's not right. Okay? And everybody looks at you and gives you the evil eye if you're in a jam or a band. Playing on your own, who cares? The odd person in the crowd might go, ooh, I don't know if that sounded right, but they wouldn't even think twice about it. And someone told me once, you know what, Ray? If I hit a bad note, I do it again to show people that I meant to do that, right? And I've done that myself, okay? So, and that usually happens when maybe you hit an open string on your way down to the fretted, right? So in this case, maybe I'm trying to fret A, B, but I hit that G by mistake, so I go, then I'll do it again. Just to show people that I meant to do it. But anyways, that's another thing. So look, now we're going to do it. I don't have a backing track yet set up for a random key, but now we're going to do it. I showed it to you in A, okay? Well, what if you're in B flat or D flat or some obscure E flat or whatever that you never really play in, but you are listening to a song and you're plucking notes to try to find your key note, and you find it, and it's right here. And you go, oh my God, E flat. I don't know anything about E flat. Well, you don't have to. You follow the path, the formula. E flat, 2 frets over, 2 strings down, there's an E flat. Slide everything over, there's your E flat. So we played the same pattern as A. 2 over, 2 down, slide it over, start it again, and there's your ring finger. There's you're going to end at your root. Okay. So with E flat, we did the same thing. Slide everything over, cross the border, and there's our E flat that we end on. Now, if we wanted to keep this little run going, then we could start, we were out of strings, right? So now we can start somewhere else and we can find an E flat. So we could maybe go here and do a little riff here. So that's going to be E flat right there, right? You want to start B flat right here at the end of the guitar. 2 down, 2 over. Cross the border. Okay? I don't even have to look. You don't have to look. If you follow the path, 2 down, 2 over, 2 down, right? Slide over and do the same thing. When you reach the end, your ring finger will be on the same note as you start. Let's do C. C. Slide everything over. C. Okay? Now, let's find quickly, let's find a backing track that, all right, so this is,
People call me Yeti,
this is
abominable, but at my core, I'm a
D
crafter.
major.
That's why I start the holidays at Michael's. Oh!
Okay, so this is a whole different chord progression. First chord is D, and I know because it told me that it's a key of D. Right, so, all right. All right. Find a D anywhere. So here's one right here, right? D. Play that 4-note box. I could just do this. Right? This is a lot faster than the other one, so we got to be quick on our toes, but I'm doing the same thing. There's my new root, D, right? So D right here. Over. D, over, so I know I can. Back. There's my D. Now maybe I won't go to the lower end now. I'll just stay here for a while. And I won't play all those notes. I won't go down to that other G, right? I'll just play these 4 notes. That's all I got to do, right? D. Now I slid over 2 to grab that extra note. Let's see if I can do it again. So all I'm doing here is just following that pattern and playing those same notes over and over again. And let's say I wanted to come here and play. So I find a D. So there's a D right here, right? Okay? Do the same thing. Over the border, there's my D. Try to hit the D at the beginning and the end of your little run or your riff, right? Start in D, end in D. Start in A, end in A. Hey! Sorry, I'm having trouble with my messages. All right, so now we've just done 2 different keys, 2 different tempos, but we use the same theory. We just played the octave scale or Ray scale or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I guess everybody seems to how would you say it? Where you go with this is completely up to you, right? Because I mean, those notes are all over the fretboard. You just got to know where they are. And if you don't know where they are, then what's going to happen, and that's fine because you got to start somewhere, but what's happening here, if you don't know your notes, your fretboard, that's okay. You stay within what you know. So in this case, we have a fast D major song that we need to play something to. So, all right, let's start it and find a D. Again, it could be this D, right? We could play a D here. you're not sure, just play 2 notes. Listen. Two notes. Same 2 notes. Let's go down here. Same notes, D and E. Two notes, played in different spots. So there's where you can see the dependency on knowing your fretboard, right? If I didn't know my fretboard and all I knew was this was D and this was E, then guess what? I'm stuck here, right? So I can only do this. Or I could go down and, because I told you, when you find the right note, I'm calling the key note, okay? Once you find that, and I call it a key note because it's an important note, so it's a key, like it's a very important key to have. But I'm also calling it that because 99 times out of 100, the key note that sounds perfect when that song is playing ends up being the key of the song, okay? But for the most part, if we just say key note, that's all you need, right? If you're not, if it's not exactly perfect, but that note sounds good with, you hear that sound in your ears that you get when you hit a good note with music that's playing. When you get that sound, you're good to go. I would just say, yeah, JVI, look, you don't, I get asked this a lot about fretboard stuff, okay? It is look, knowing your fretboard, I always tell people you're on a guitar journey, right? So you're going up the mountain slowly but surely. You're getting better and you're learning more and you're bringing in new techniques and you're learning, right? Okay. You can go on for years. If all you want to do is play songs and Google tells you what to play, and you get your strumming and your chording and all that stuff's down, you can go on forever. I know guys that have been playing the guitar for 20 years or more that don't know the notes on their fretboard and don't play past here, okay? So it's not something you need to know. However, if you want to do this kind of stuff, you're going to need to know it. And if that's the case, in my opinion, and only from my experience, I tried it all, okay? I tried the whole piece of paper thing with the 6 strings and all the things, the frets, and fill in all the notes, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. I did all that. Somebody, I don't know, I saw some guitar app somewhere where it'll say find all the F sharps and you got to go and tap on the screen where all the F sharps are on the fretboard. Hey, that's great. I got 100% all the time. And you will too, I'm sure. But the minute and you will learn this. And the minute you look down, okay, at your fretboard, and I always say the lights are on and people are watching, you look down, I didn't know where any note was. Like I was lost. Like, forget it. Okay, so for me, the only way to learn the fretboard, the way I eventually learned it, was first of all because I wanted to. Now, someone just made a comment that said, hey, I need to do this. I want to do this. Okay, if you're at that level where you're pretty decent, you're doing good with your chords and you're just moving along nicely, and your brain says, remember the brain in the Guitar Foundation? Your brain says, hey, he wants to learn this. Let's make it happen. You're going to learn it. That's just the way it is. If someone forces me to go out and learn something that I not really care about, don't want to do, not interested in, well, guess what? I'm probably not going to learn it. And if I do, it'll be half-baked, right? But when you want to learn it, you'll learn it. And here's what I did, okay? Someone asked me today, I think I got a comment that said, how do you know where the root notes are? Okay, and we're going to get back to what we were doing, but this is part of that. What are the root notes, Ray? Well, the root note is the note of the chord that you're playing that has the same name. So if you're playing a D chord, the root note is D. So when you're playing that D chord, this is again, this is how it starts. This is how you start learning your notes. You may not have to know the notes in the D, but you should know your root note. So where are my root notes? Well, I'm playing a D chord. I have to find the D note. Well, in this case, remember we play an open D string. And we play those four while we fret these three strings, right? So this would be your root note. Technically, the root note is, they refer to the root note as the lowest note. So that would mean, in layman's terms, the note that you play that's closer to you, right? Because as we come up the guitar, the strings get thicker and they get lower, right? Oh, yeah, okay, so, all right, yeah, I think I got your, it was a good question. Let me see that. Do you always learn notes like A, G, B, or do you learn it? Oh, okay, I thought it was something else. Now, I personally learn the notes because correct me if I'm wrong, the do, re, mi thing, you have to find a starting point, and wherever you start, you go from there. So if you're starting at mi, then it's mi, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi kind of thing, I think, right? Where when you learn the notes, you have to know what those notes are. Just like the 5-7, 5-7, right? So this is 5-7. It's an A and a B. But so is this a 5-7. And that's not. That's a D and an E. So I'd rather go A, B, D, E, A, B, D, E. Okay? So the first thing we do is learn our root notes. So we're all open chord players, right? I'm assuming. So you're playing your open chord. What's the root note of D? Well, the root note is, the open D string is right here, and my ring finger is on the other root. There's two root notes in D, right? Where's the root note in C? Okay, so it's right here, C. And there's another one here. First fret, second string. So there's actually two root notes in C as well. But we consider this root note the root note, the main root note, because it's the lowest, right? And it's also the highest up. That makes sense. The closest to you is always the root note, okay? Even though there's two, they're both roots, but this would be the bass, the bass root. That's the one, that's the important one, okay? So how we can start learning our fretboard is this. If you're an open chord player, almost every chord you play, your root note is on the ring finger. Now, there are a couple of exceptions, but there doesn't have to be. So here's what I mean. If we look at A, no matter how we play it, like this or like this, we'll notice that the root note is not on our ring finger. Our ring finger is actually on this note here, which is a D flat or a C sharp. But there are different ways to play your A. I play mine like this. Now my root note is still not, it's kind of just one of the three that I'm fretting, but it's right here if I need it. Like I could go, if I needed to. Or there are some ways to play, like some people, because they have big fingers, they play like a D shape in those three. to play their A. And if you do that, then your A note would be on your ring finger. Okay? Now B is not a open chord, it's a bar chord. So we're not going to count that. C, root note, ring finger. D, hey, cool, welcome. I hope it helps. The D, right, our ring finger right here is on the D. Even though that's not the bass, the lowest root, it's a root, so it's right here. So we can, when we get a little better, we can come off that root note and make a little riff like that, okay? Just like we can on the C. We could do a little thing like that. When we play our E chord, okay? The root note, E, is right there on our ring finger, okay? When we play the F chord this way, our root note is on the ring finger. Now, if we play the G this way, you'll have the highest root note, right, here at the 3rd fret of the E. Okay? If you play it my way, which is with the back 3 fingers, you will have your root note on your ring finger and on your pinky. So you could be playing this, and you could go, or you could go, and you could play off your pinky. You could do something like that. So you can see all those positions that you play your open chords in, majority of them, the way you naturally play them, the root note is on your ring finger, okay? So where does it go from there? Well, I would do this. Let's say you are a C-D-G player, or you play a lot of C chords, okay? Then what I would do is, what I would start doing first of all is making note of this, like knowing that you're playing these chords. Where's my root note? What did Ray say? Where's my root note on this? And I mean, the internet is full of diagrams. You can Google any diagram, get the fingering, and decide. And a lot of them even circle the root note, or they put the root note in a different color for you, right? So once we have our root note, now we can play little licks or riffs off of that note if we want to, when we get good enough. Now remember, this is like being a juggler. So we have taught ourselves over the first year to be able to do this. And do it pretty well, right? We're open chord guitar players. That's amazing. Now we're asked to do this. Oh, wait a minute. Give it a try. You won't be able to do it. It's so easy, look. How easy is that? I used to watch people do that on these videos and go, oh yeah. And then I'd get in there and it's like, this ain't happening. Well, there's a reason for that. Because A, you don't know exactly the notes that you're playing, and B, your fingers aren't trained to do that yet. This is what we're going to do. This is going to lead into that, right? We're going to do it slowly and we're going to do it surely, all right? So we now know where our root notes are. So let's say I want to learn my fretboard and I don't know anything, okay? So the first thing I would do is whatever chords I play the most, C, D, G, E, A, D, whatever it is, I would start making note of my root notes. And then from the root note, okay, play a little 4-note box. So what I mean is, play the C. Now you're not going to be able to transition right away and do that. Don't worry about it. Who cares? The juggler, remember? It takes time. So we're going to do this. We're going to stop, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And what did I just do? I just played the 4-note box that I showed you at the beginning of the show on how to solo and make licks and easy, accoutrements off of the root note. So C, I now know in my mind that's a C. Now remember what I told you. if that's a D, 2 frets up, right? And anywhere there's a C, 2 frets up is going to be a D. And I mean anywhere. It doesn't matter where. There's a C, that's going to be a D without looking. So now I know that's a C, right? Because it's on my root finger, my ring finger. I know that's a D, right? And remember what I told you, go underneath, and there's an F. Now, a C and an F are always going to be right next to each other on the fretboard. So here's a C here. That'll be an F. Don't even have to ask or look, okay? And again, the only exception is when we're crossing the border. So there's a C there, but that's not an F under it. The F is 1 fret over, okay? So now I know if that's a C and 2 frets up is a D, that's an F. Well, what's 2 frets up from the F? That's a G. So now I know that this is a C, D, F, G. So now if I go to the beginning and I play a C chord, and I stop, and I go C, D, F, and G. There's my 4-note box. Slide everything back and play my C chord. Right? Now, tomorrow, when I pick up my guitar, I'm going to look at it, not like this with like a sheet of paper, not like an app on a screen. I'm going to look at my guitar the way I'm going to play it, which is kind of like on a weird angle like this, right? And I'm going to say, hey, C, D, F, G. C, D, F, G. C, D, F, G. C, D, F, G. Okay? Now I know those 4 notes. I don't know anything else, but I know those 4 notes. Okay? Then C, D, F, G ends here at the ring finger. What's that? That's a G. So when I look down, this is my first index point for me that I learned, was this right here. This dot is actually in between strings 3 and 4 when you look straight down. But when you look at your guitar like this and you're playing, that dot runs right through the middle of that string right there. And that's a G note. And that's was a marker for me. So now I learned C, D, F, G. Now if I just look at the guitar, I know, hey, there's my G on that dot. Maybe that's why they put the dots there. I don't know. So what do I do now? Well, Ray said, right? If that's a G, 2 frets up is an A. G, A, C, D. C is always under G, right? C, G, C, G. There's G, there's C. G, A, C, 2 frets up is a D. G, A, C, D. G, A, C, D. G, A, C, D. G, A, C, D. So now, the next day I pick up my guitar, I know that that's C, D, F, G. G, A, C, D. And then I just started, okay, well, if this dot is a C, this is where it gets easy because this dot's a C. 2 up is a dot, and that's a D. Well, there's another dot here. That must be an E. And you're right. So now I know these dots here, C, D, E. How easy is that? C, D, E. So the next day when I pick up my guitar, what have I got now? I got C, D, F, G, G, A, C, D, E. Back to where it all started, on the C chord. If I'm using this theory off of the D, ring finger on the root, what happens when I move up 2? That's got to be an E. I don't have to look. D, E. And eventually you'll learn that what's under a D, like if there was another string here above the G, it'd be a D. So there's my D, right? On that 2nd string, 3rd fret. So what's under a D all the time? G. Right? We have a D here. We have a G here. Right? We have a D here. I have a G here. Always. Again, except for when you cross that border, right? We got to move everything over. So that's how I learned my fretboard. And it took me, I'm going to say a week to kind of figure out and feel comfortable. And some, just like anything you learn, some things are going to come to you real quick, and others, you got to stop and look, and that's going to happen. So you're going to be playing to a slow backing track, and you're going to be just zooming along, and then you're going to forget, okay, and you got to look. Okay, yeah, I'm on, and that's okay. Just like when we learned our chords, remember? We learned C, and then we had to get to the D. We had to stop and, oh, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, got it. All right, there we go. Yeah, I got it. There's the muscle memory thing. So again, it's one thing to understand what's going on here, and then it's another thing to actually use it and make it sound like music, because they're not ready yet. Now, if we reverse, if we go into rewind, how many of you in your first year, 6 months, whatever, would be scrolling along and see these videos of these guys, and they'd say, oh, do this every day and you'll be shredding the board in 2 minutes, right? Okay. And they do something like this. And they go down and they put each finger in each fret, and then they do it so well, and they go up and down, and it's so impressive, right? I never did that. And I kick myself for not doing that, because that is the precursor to getting these fingers, because up until now, these fingers, we've had to use them in a unit, right? So meaning, if we're playing in C, and we want to go to D, we take all the fingers off and we reform them and we put them on the D. And then we take them all the way off and we reform them and we put them on the G to make a G. Well, now we're only playing one note at a time. We're only playing. It's a whole different ball game. Now, all of a sudden, remember when we're taught to make your fingers, when you're doing a chord, curl over the tips. Right? No, wherever you find a D note, right? The G will be under it. Now, except you're crossing the border, you have to move up one. So if we have a D here, where do we have a D? D here. Anywhere you have a D, you'll have a G under it. Okay? Except when you cross the border from the bronze, then you have to move up one to get that G. And that works for any note. The fretboard is exactly the same. It repeats itself over and over again. So now, instead of, when you're curling your fingers over so that the bottoms don't touch other strings and your chord doesn't sound all blah, whatever, right? Well, now it's kind of the opposite. Now, the reason we do that is so we don't touch the other strings when we play the chords, so they all ring out. If any of our tips or undersides touch any of the strings, we're going to get a weird stuff going on. Well, now it's a little bit different when we play our notes. Now, I tend to kind of come up straight up like this. And now, I don't care. If I'm playing this note here, that's a D, right? So if I'm playing that note there, 5th string, 5th fret, I can press these others under it. Doesn't matter, because I'm not playing those notes. But in a chord, you may be playing the open string, it does matter. But when you're playing one note, all that matters is I play that one note. So you'll see when guys are playing lead, they tend to have a lot of them have their fingers sticking straight up. I mean, there's different techniques, right? It depends what you're comfortable with. But you're not concerned about curling over your fingers. There's a whole different ball game going on, right? So anyways, back to learning that fretboard. So we come off of our root note and we learn the note is C right there, okay? So again, if that's a C, if I move over, there's a D. I don't even have to look. 2 frets up. If I only go 1, it's only a C sharp or a D flat, depending on which way you're going. Usually, if you're working your way up, it'll be like C, C sharp, D sharp, E. But if you're going backwards, it would be like E flat, D flat, right? C flat, whatever, right? Okay, that's what it would be. So now I'm learning my fretboard much like a jigsaw puzzle. So when you open a jigsaw puzzle, 1,000 pieces, you dump them out, right? Well, you don't put the pieces together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You use your eye and your brain and you say, oh, this is all a green tree. Let's put all those pieces over here. And eventually they all go together. Then you got this clump of green. And then over here you have a clump of a yellow house. And over here you have a blue boat. But they're not connected. And then all of a sudden you find a piece here and there. And now it connects those two pieces together. So you might know C, D, F, G, but you don't know what's under that yet. You don't know what these are yet, okay? Don't worry about it. Because what'll happen is, eventually you'll play C, D, F, G, A, right? And you'll go down here and you'll for some reason know that this is a D. Well, if it's two frets up to go to the E, then if I go backwards, the same has to happen. It's the note under it, or the chord under it, or the note under it. So this here, if I go down to, I'm at a C. So D to C, D to E, E to D to C, C to D to E. Right? It's just little things, little repetition, and that way it burns it into your brain organically, and you're not relying on a piece of paper or an app. Okay? Take those pieces of paper and those apps. Okay? Okay? I used to do that when I started, and I had all these papers in front of me, and I'm trying to, okay, what did it say? It said 5, 7, 4, 3. No. Learn your notes, learn your root notes. And it won't happen today, it won't happen tomorrow. But I guarantee you within a week or so, you'll know a little thing on your fretboard. Now, if you play all open chords, at this point in your playing, you don't need to know what that is because you're never going to be there, right? Oh, no problem. You're not going to be there, so don't worry about it. A real crip? What the hell's a real crip? I'm not sure what that comment means, if I'm a real crip or not. I don't know. Yeah? I don't know. All right, so little by little, you'll start seeing things. And remember, yeah, I think the gate has to be closed here because we're getting some real dandies wandering through that open gate. Randy, that's your fault. It's between you and Dermot, right? You know, you guys are the gatekeepers. Now, what's going on here? I know the gate's a bit rusty, but we'll oil her up and we got to start putting that lock back on there, right? All right, so again, within a couple of weeks, rest assured, you're going to know. And again, don't worry about here. If you never play there, you will one day. I said I'll never play up there. Now I play quite a bit. You will. But you don't need it right now. Why don't we worry about this part? Just like when I was talking about scales and a couple of weeks ago about learning scales. And why would you learn your minor pentatonic here when you don't play here? Why don't you learn that same scale here? Because then you can use it in your everyday playing. Right? Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so it's the same thing here. Learn your fretboard where you play first, and then let it spread, and it will, because remember, it's all repetition. It just repeats itself. So if I learn G, A, C, D, F, G, right? And then I go down here, and that would be my B flat, C. If you want to learn them in order, B flat, C, right? And I got my D, E, I'm sorry, D, E. If you want to do that, whatever floats your boat. But just make sure you take it slow and you know exactly where you're at. And remember, it's repetitive. So if I remember going back to how we started the show, this is a little quick progression. I don't recommend starting here, but since I'm here, remember, we know that what I'm going to play now is in the key of D, and the first chord is a D. So I'm going to have a D note ready. Okay? Now I can play my D here, right? I could play my D here as an open, so then it would be D, E. That would be my little 4-note box, right? Would be D, E, D, E, D, E, right? Instead of going D, E, D, E, D, E, or my 2-note box, sorry. My toggle, I call it, back and forth. I could do it on an open string, D, E, or I could do it here. D, E, D, E, it's all the same. Just a different, slightly different voicing because we're further up, it's gonna be a little higher. So now, I know I'm in a D. I'm gonna start on a D. But all I know is that the D is here, or I know it open, okay? All right, no problem. So let's find our way. Okay, D. 1 under the D is a G. That's an A because it's 2 up from the G. And that's all I'm doing, look. How you make it sound is timing, rhythm, and practice. You gotta put... I'm gonna play the notes now with no rhythm. Still works. Right? Now, playing my notes this way to that backing track would be the same as doing this to a GCD song. We're playing the proper chords. We're playing them the proper way. But they don't really sound like music, right? All right. What do we got to do to make those 3 chords sound like music? We have to implement a series of things. Rhythm, tempo, timing, all these little things, some techniques maybe to make the chords sound a little different, right? So then we can sound maybe like this. GCD. All right, same thing with our notes. There's nothing wrong with doing this. Like I said earlier, nobody's going to point at you and go, hey, dude, you're way off. Because you're not. You're in the zone. You're just playing 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2. That's all you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Get those fingers going, right? But all we got to do now, through practice, is do something like this. Completely different. Now we got something kind of musical there. But we still played the same 4 notes, and we could even sort of play them like just back and forth. We could just toggle them, just play 2 notes, and we can still make it sound. Right? Because we've just put our soul into it. I know that sounds so ridiculous, but it's so true. You can play chords, or you can play chords. Same with when you're playing your notes, but you got to get there. So remember, when you first played C and D chords, well, it was terrible. Let's face it. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? But now you're adding some right hand attitude and you're making those chords into music. Well, the same thing with notes. So the first thing you got to do is get your fingers going by just playing the notes. And that's where you're learning the notes. D, E, G, A, D, E, G, A, D, E, G, A. And then you're going to try to go faster and you're going to miss hit and you're going to be on the wire and you're going to have a buzz and it's not going to sound right and you're going to miss the string. That's cool. Don't worry about it. Tomorrow you'll be a little bit better, and the day after that you'll be a little bit better. Okay, so a lot of us would just panic because we think that we should be doing this in a day. All of this stuff should be learned in a day. And that's just, well, yeah, aha. I call them light bulb moments, right? I call them light bulb moments. And whatever you call them, yes, it's fantastic when you have those moments. I hope you're getting those moments because I know for me it was a breakthrough when I certain things. I was like, wow, I get it now. It all works. So again, because a lot of you out here understand what I've just gone through. You understand that. You understand that it's just a matter of playing a series of notes in a certain order, whether we call them scales or not. But that's only half the battle. The other half the battle, again, just like when you learned your open chords, is making what you just learned sound like music. So for all of us also that had done this, I was barely playing 4 months, I think, when someone on YouTube told me that if I don't know the A minor pentatonic, if I don't know the minor pentatonic, then I'm not a guitar player. So of course I thought, well, I better know the minor pentatonic, right? So A it is. So I did all that. Right, up and down, up and down, up and down, without knowing what I was doing, what notes I was playing, how I was going to use it, nothing. But I could go up and down. But that's all it sounded like. It sounded like. And you know what? No matter how fast you play it, or whether you play it on an electric guitar and all that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because you won't sound musical. And that's okay, because you've got to build up to that just like you did with your chords. The first, So I can't say that enough. People expect that, oh, I just learned to scale. I should be like Jimmy Page now. No. But in a year or two of working that scale and turning that scale into music with other, whether it's a backing track or other musicians, then you're on the track to, eventually becoming like Jimmy Page or whatever, right? So remember, just because we know what we got to do and just because we can actually play the notes doesn't mean we can play the notes and make them sound musical. And even like I am not, like I always tell you guys, I'm just a little ahead of you, right? Look, I'm just somebody that went through this and wasted 2.5 years, almost 3 years, quit twice. And when I came back the third time, when I came back the third time, realized that, you know what? It didn't work for me before. I don't like all these numbers. I don't I don't understand the theory. I don't know what I'm doing. I just want to make music, right? So that's what I did. And I just sat there and played 3 chords all night, every night until I made those 3 chords sound like music. Well, the same thing with your notes, right? At first, they just sound like 4 notes from a box. That's all they sound like. That's it. But again, eventually, you'll figure out little melodies once you get your fingers hooked up to your brain. You're already connected to the 2 hands. That's your guitar foundation, right? You've already worked on this part. Now we're working on this part, ears and brain. It takes time, okay? I'm just going to go and check the screen for messages here. Yeah, whatever, Koski. It always amuses me the people that come in here with their holier than thou, I'm a guitar god attitude and how this and that. But it just blows my mind because um, people don't realize that this is for the most part, an early journey or beginner's channel. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't take the time to kind of figure out. They just come in and they think, oh, this dude's trying to teach people this and he doesn't even know what he's doing. That's not the case, right? The case here is to break everything down to the lowest possible, the common denominator, the lowest possible, and let people show them the foundation and let them develop from there. Because I don't care how good you are there, Koski or whatever your name was, I really don't care. Because you're probably not. Anybody that comes in and does that, they're never as good as they think that they are, right? So I know that you're not very good, but this is your immature way of going through all these groups and letting people know that, hey, I'm a god, I'm great. So when you start posting videos and give lessons and stuff, I'll come in and critique you, right? But until then, I'm not going to ban you, but just go somewhere else because this place isn't for you, right? So again, no matter of what people you're going to hear your comments here and there, remember the best way to learn anything is you break it down, right? You break it down to its lowest form and you build it up from there. And when it comes to what we just talked about, again, 2 notes, 3 notes, 4 notes, that's all you need to get you going. Get your ear working, your brain working. Say, hey, you know what? Yeah. This could be right. You know, right? So this could be right. All right. So I think that the important thing here you got to remember is starting at a base. Right? You've got a base. You've got to get to the lowest point before you can build anything up, no matter what you're trying to learn. So that's what we're here to do today. Now let's do a quick recap. Now, we are at an open jam, okay? And people are playing, and they're laying down a chord progression and blah, 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 right? Okay. All we need to know, what key are you in? And a lot of times in these jams, people say that. They go, hey, anybody wants to play along? We're in the key of G, we're in the key of A, we're in the key of C, or whatever. So as soon as you hear that, what do? If it's the key of G, you look for a G note on your guitar, anywhere on your guitar. Now, when you get good, you might think, oh, let's grab this G right here. Okay? Or this G here. But the way they're playing, there might be 3 guys playing guitar, and they're all kind of playing in the open sort of position or whatever, and it's like that kind of voicing. Well, playing here may not fit in, right? Because it might be just a little too. You won't be out, but you see what I mean? We have to think of voicings too, and how we compare to the music. Do we want to be like a real noticeable difference, like they're playing an F chord here, right? Should I be playing my F here, or maybe I could play it here? And it'll definitely work, right? So that's what we got to, all this has to go through our head. But remember, once you learn your fretboard, you'll know that everything is repetitive. So if you see a little riff here in F, right, then you can repeat that here because you know your fretboard. You just go to your F and you play your little riff off there, right? That kind of thing, right? So, but all we need to know is the key. So when they tell us, okay, it's in the key of G, then we know that we just go and grab a G. And if we just keep it simple with just a 4-note box, G and A, C and D, G, A, C, D, G, A, C, D, G, A, C, D. And we just do that to start. We're not going to get into any trouble at all, right? And if you want to really dumb it down and slow it right down, when someone is playing a G, just play a G note, right? When they switch over to the C, play a C note. When they go to the D, play a D note. Just once. Let it ring out. Okay, so how would that sound? Now, this is a little fast, but okay, so we could go. We just try to not sound sour. Don't hit a bad note. That's it. Now, at this point, you probably don't yet know, and you may, how chords are built. Okay? Now, do you need to know this? Well, no, but if you know it, then that'll help you decide which notes to play over certain chords, right? So remember, keys are like neighborhoods. Okay, that's the neighborhood, the key. Within the neighborhood, there are houses. Within the key, there are chords. 7 houses, 7 chords. We only use 6 of them, mostly in basic everyday playing. The 7th is usually what we call a diminished chord. It's a 2 chord if it's in the minor, but we won't worry about that. So let's make it easy and use the 6 chords of a key, right? So we're in the key of C. So the neighborhood is C. In the neighborhood, there are 6 houses: C, D, E, F, G, and A. The 7th house is that diminished one that we're going to leave out. But if you want to put it in, it's in. It's B, B diminished. So there's your chords. There's your houses within the neighborhood. Now, in each house, there are people that live in there, okay? And all of those houses in the neighborhood all look alike. They all play. They all melt perfect into the scape of the streets. And in those houses, all the people play well with all the people in the other house. So in this case, your notes are the people, your chords are the houses, and the key is the neighborhood. So in the neighborhood of C, right, I have a D minor chord, or a D chord. I have a D minor chord, and the D minor chord is made up of notes. But I can play the same notes generally over the A minor chord or the C chord because all those people get along. So that's a layman's term. But in musical sense, what happens is chords are made from notes, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th of the note scale, right? So a G, skip that'd be the 1. The 2 we don't use. That would have been the A. We use the B. That's the 3rd. We don't use the 4th. That's a C. And we have a 5th, a 1, 3, and 5. G, B, and D. Okay, those are the notes in a G. So if the G is playing and I play any of those notes, G, B, or D, I'll sound good. But it also doesn't mean that I can't play the E, right? Or the B or the C, or it doesn't mean that. It just means that the 1st, 3rd, and the 5th would be are really going to sound good because that's what makes that chord up. Now, when we move to the G or the D chord, we can play the notes of D, right? Because we have a D in there. The second is E. The third, so we could play a D, an F, and an A over a D chord. D, F, and A, right? So when we played over the G, we played a G, D, and B. So the D is in the, you see what I'm saying? It's the same note is in the two chords, and that you'll find that happens quite a bit. Just like certain chords are in different keys, because they all they get along. You don't have to know this, right? I mean, if you do know it, it'll make you better. But again, all this information has to be processed by your brain, part of your guitar foundation. The faster your brain, just like a computer, an old computer can't process things, so it spins, and you're late getting the information. It's the same thing when you're playing guitar. Those guys ripping it on stage like that, they go through generally the same thought process. It just happens so quick and so far ahead that by the time they get there, they've already thought about it and know what they're going to play. And then they get to the point where they do it so well that they don't even think about it. It just comes naturally. And that's through hours and hours and hours of practice. But that's all they're doing. They're doing the same thing as we're talking about today. They're just doing it like lickety split. Okay? And they're making it sound good by using, again, rhythm and techniques and and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's it. Everything that you've learned here today or that we've talked about today, this is the foundation of doing any of this stuff anywhere on your guitar. Learn your fretboard, have an idea of notes, especially the root notes, where they are, okay? You don't have to stick to that whole, only play these notes over these chords. I mean, if you can, that's fantastic. And 9 times out of 10, if you're using your ear to play and you're relying on your ear and your ear says that sounds good, 9 times out of 10, those will be the right notes that you're playing. You're just not thinking about it. And it's like anything, right? What do they say in any sport? Oh, he's thinking too much, right? When he's in a hitting slump, or he hasn't scored a goal forever, or he's not playing good golf. The first thing they say, oh, well, see, he's overthinking. And there's something to that. When you just clear your mind and let it go and rely on what you have built up in your practice. So meaning if you've only practiced 2 weeks, then the maximum you're probably going to get is whatever you can do over those 2 weeks, but you might sound a little better or a lot better than you did the first day, which will make you sound better. So you're improving, and your brain's going to go, hey, ear, did you hear that? They're sounding pretty good. Let's keep going. And then after 2 more weeks, you're going to be shredding it even more and playing even better, right? Yeah, there's a lot of challenges as a newbie, but remember, if you listen to what I kind of preach here, is keep don't get distracted, right? So many new people, me included, not once, but twice, said, second time I picked the guitar up again after a few months off. I played for a year, I quit for a few months, probably 4 or 5 months, picked it up again. And of course, I'm so smart that what I did was I did the exact same thing and fell into the exact same traps as I did the first time. And that was, okay, hey, I'm doing pretty good learning these open chords like this. I know 3 chords, and my strumming's getting good. Yeah, this is pretty cool. And then I scroll through YouTube, and I see some guy, hey, mothers, yeah. Do you want to do this? And I go, yes, I want to do that. So I click on the channel and I download the videos. I get the book in the email, and I'm watching, and I start that, right? And then And I know there's distractions everywhere. And so I put down what I'm working on and getting good at, albeit slowly but surely, and I start trying to figure out how to shred the fretboard in 3 days, right? Knowing that that's not going to happen. I didn't know, but I now know that's not going to happen. And then I'm doing that, and then I'm scrolling, and someone says, if you don't play triads, you're not a real guitar player. Oh, better learn triads. Download the book, get the guy's course, go to the channel. I'm going to learn triads. And then I fart around with that for 3 or 4 weeks, get nowhere because I don't understand theory. And now I'm back square one again, and I'm no better than I was. You see what I mean? Too many distractions. So when we're learning, right from the beginning, if you watch that last video I put out, what was it called? Can't remember what it was called now. Something about beginners. Don't do what I did or something and save time, whatever it was. Watch that. And it's basically put the blinders on, learn 3 chords, and don't watch YouTube, okay? Until you can play music with those 3 chords, right? Now you decide, where do you want to go? All right, I want to learn a 4th chord or a 5th chord or a 6th chord, whatever. Learn those chords and do it until you do it well, then move on. So don't keep jumping all around. And it's the same thing here. What I've showed you today is rock bottom basic. Nobody's gonna, invite you into their band at Madison Square Garden because you can play the Ray scale, which is, just going, A, and working your way up the fretboard. But it's a start. And when you start learning little things with your fingers, like hammer-ons, silly little things like this, right? A hammer-on. Pretty basic. And remember, this is an acoustic guitar. Sounds a lot better with more sustain, like on an electric guitar and things like that. But again, it's best to start on an acoustic because it's tough, it's hard to play notes and make them sound right, Then you go to an electric guitar with all your fancy pedals and you start doing the same 4-note box that I just did. And all of a sudden it's like, holy geez, this doesn't sound bad, but all you're playing is a 4-note box. But it sounds really cool because you got effects pedals. It's so easy to play those little silky strings on those electric guitars, right? So remember, by doing it on a big acoustic guitar like this with fat, dirty strings and everything, you're actually doing yourself a favor because if you can play good notes and little riffs and stuff on an acoustic guitar, when you get to an electric, it'll be so much easier and smoother. So again, don't expect to be Eddie Van Halen overnight. Start here. And it doesn't matter. Or if you know your pentatonic and you don't want to get confused, play your pentatonic. The only problem with that is most of you only know one position of that pentatonic or that major scale, and me included. I didn't even know what a 2nd, 3rd, 4th position open, but I didn't know any of that, what that meant. I thought that once I learned this, I'm done. I know the minor pentatonic scale. Oh, you want B? No problem, buddy. I'll give you B. What do you want next? I'm done. I didn't know there was 2nd position, 3rd position, all this stuff, and that is what allows you to put pieces together and move up and down the neck, staying in key, staying in the proper scale. But when I figured out this octave scale, I had a light bulb moment because replace the octave scale with the pentatonic or the major or whatever, and you will find ways to connect. So here we're using the note, right? G, G, right? G, G. That's our connected we're connecting. So we started here and I ended here by staying on the G path. Well, if I want to do that with the pentatonic scale, for example, I can do that. But I've got to know more than that one position. So if I do that, where do I go now? And do I have to wait till I get to the bottom? Well, no, you don't. But where do I go now? Well, I go into the second position, and that's here. Back to the first position. To the second position. To the third position. All connected, but I got to know this, and I didn't know that. And I didn't know that I had to know that. Do you guys know that you had to know that? And what that was? I didn't know. See ya, JV? Or, I didn't know. So, right? So this is what made me think, oh, that's why there's different positions, so that I can string this together, so that I can go and play and stay in F the way I started, but go all the way up here. Right? Right? So again, let's back up and recap, right? So we are all here, and many of you are at the point where you want something more, you want to go bigger, better, faster. You understand the whole scale thing. You kind of got it, you know what, how it works, okay? That you don't have to play every note, you don't have to play all the notes in order, you don't have to play the whole scale. You can just take little bits of the scale. You know that. You just can't do it. And you can't do it theory-wise, and you can't do it physically-wise. Get those fingers moving. So, again, we're going to start at the basics, okay? And this is going to be just a real quick walkthrough. This is in the key of C, nice and slow, okay? So, key of C, C note. There's one right here. You hear it? Sounds good. You can hear it. Like it matches with what we're playing. Now, did I have to use that C? No. I could start at this C. Or I could start at this C. Or I could start here at this C. Or I could start at this C. Okay? So that's the first thing. Key of C, note of C. So we'll start here, okay? Now, play the next note 2 frets up. Okay, then go 1 string down and play those 2 notes. So now I got a 4-note box off of the C. Eventually, you'll start kind of figuring your way around it, right? But it's only 4 notes. That's all you need. Get started. Use your ear to know what note sounds best over what chord. You don't have to play every beat. You don't have to sit there and go, You can if you want. You don't have to. You can let it ring out. Go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to apply the same rhythm principles, or we should, as we do when we're taught to strum, right? 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? All that kind of stuff. So again, if what we were listening to was in the key of G, find a G note right here. 2 up is an A. Start. That's a good way to learn your note. G, A. What's under a G? Always a C. 2 up is a D. So now we have a 4-note box. So if the key is G, away we go. Now, let me see what other keys I got here. D major, let's see, something different. No flats or sharps here, so what we'll do is, yeah, oh, here we got a bit of a, oh, here's a slow one.
Here are the top 3 things I wish I knew before starting my own YouTube channel, and I'm going to tell you how Descript can catapult you into making.
Been there, done that. Okay. This is an F. So we're going to find an F chord, or an F note, right? So the first thing is, where's an F note? Quick, quick, quick. All right, well, we got one here. You hear the synergy? You hear that? Not so much there because we switched over to another. It still sounded okay, but when we hit that first note, the F on the F, wow. Right? Hear it? Right? Now it goes to C, so we got to. So if we were to do that, D, then to a B. So that's what I was saying earlier. If you can match the notes to the chords, you're rocking. And eventually you will. But it doesn't mean we just play the one and let it go. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll play and then be back on that F when it's on the F, right? Or while it's still playing on the F chord. So if it's on the F chord for 8 beats, for example, we could do and get all those notes in that go with F before it changes to the C. And then we could do the same thing on the C, right? But that's, don't worry about that. Will come because your ear will tell you what to do. And your soul, your feeling, you'll feel it, you'll know. But again, to start, key of F. I don't even have to know what the other chords are. Key of F, F note. Play a 4-note box. That's it. And this is how I would recommend you start. If you've never done this before, just make sure you have a song or a backing track that you know for sure that's the key. And whatever that key is, find the corresponding note. Key of B, B note. Key of D, D note. Key of F, F note. Play the 4 notes, right? 2 frets apart. So F, 2 frets up is a G. Under my F right here, I got a B flat. And my next chord, my next one is a C. So now we have. If we just did that. Now let's go to another F. Same riff. So start there. Don't worry about all the fancy stuff. Don't worry about it sounding like Eddie Van Halen or not. Don't worry about being judged. Don't worry about someone saying, hey, that sucks, dude, right? It doesn't suck. It's just not polished, right? I just missed that last. Yeah, that's it. And keep it simple. Just play those 4 notes, the first 4 notes that make that box. Then what I would challenge you with, once you figured out how that sounds and everything, and you get a little more confident, and it's not going to happen in a half hour or nothing like that, maybe the next day, maybe in a few days, maybe in a week. Replicate that 4-note box somewhere else, right? So in this case, what were we doing? We're just going to, for the heck of it, we're going to go C, D, F, G, C, D, F, G, C, D, F, G, C, D, F, G. Once you get confident, right, and you're getting maybe even a little faster or whatever, but don't worry about the speed, okay? But once you get confident, just take a second to figure out where can I play these same 4 notes again? Well, you could play them here if you want to venture up the neck. Or you could play it here and cross the border, right? Give you a little bit of lateral movement in your fingers. Get that going. So you can play C, D, F, G. Right? Same as this. And just do that. And as you're doing that, you're also learning the fretboard. Because then tomorrow when you pick up your guitar, you're going to know that you got a little riff right here, right? A C, D, F, G, just like you have here, right? And now it's burning into your brain. And that's how you get better. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but in a week or two, you'll be coming here jamming like a professional, right? Guaranteed. Start slow, baby steps, and repeat the same 4 notes. Find them elsewhere on the fretboard. Because that's all you need to do a basic riff lead or whatever. And yes, like you're leaving yourself open to people that are going to judge you and say, well, you can't do anything else. But you know what? Who cares? You will be able to do it once you get this figuring out. Because this is the first part. You're figuring out, oh, I just saw a comment that, hey, I'm doing it and it sounds good. And it will sound good. And to prove that, do what I just did. Go get another backing track in another key. Find that note, key a B flat, find a B flat. Okay? So there's my B, there's my B flat. Start there and play those 4 notes. And you're going to hear that they work. Then try to find that B flat elsewhere. Right? And just work your way into it. And lastly, I should mention, I thought someone had asked that question before, but it was the do, re, mi thing. But remember that a D and a D flat are 2 different notes. But a D and a D minor, you play a D. Okay? So again, let me just quickly point that out because that comes up a lot. This is in the key of D flat. Okay. We know that this is, say, a D chord, or we'll use it, or a D note. This is here. Okay? We can play that D over a D major or a D minor. No problem. We can play this note over a D, but not a D flat. It'll sound sour. We have to drop down 1 to play D flat. Okay, so minors and majors, we just play the same letter. So if it's an A minor or an A major, we just play an A note. But if it's an A and an A flat, we got to play the A flat note, which is one fret lower than the A. So I know you guys probably figured, I didn't, I didn't know the difference. And I didn't know for the longest time, you know, if I'm playing A minor, what note to play. Well, where's the minor note? So I started playing the A flat note when I saw A minor. So, you know what I mean? Like, it just, don't be afraid or embarrassed or anything about that. That's just part of it. So, once again, A minor and A, or G minor and G, or F sharp minor and F sharp and F and all that. Okay, when it comes to minors and majors, you can just play the note of the corresponding, whatever it is, A, B, C. C minor, C major, just play a C note. But if it's C and C flat, you got to play the C flat note over the C flat, or it'll sound off. Sometimes it's not that bad, but yeah, I should have mentioned that before, because that is a question that I get, and I had when I was starting. So I think we've done pretty good for today, right? I'm really curious if you guys would just let me know how you're doing with this, because I think there's a lot of you today that this was sort of like something that, you know, you're trying to do, or it's confusing, or whatever the word is, intimidating, overwhelming. So I'd be curious to see those of you that tonight are going to put on a backing track and look at the backing track, and it says, um, you know, key of D or whatever. Find a D note and play just those four in a box for now. For now. But you do know that you can go to the octave. So if the 4 is not enough for you, you know you can go down that extra string, play those 2 notes. Now you got 6 notes you can play, and then move it over. Okay? So before I leave you, I'm going to show you in G the path, and it's the same for any note, right? 2 over, 2 strings down, move the whole thing over, and do the same thing. When you get to the border, switch over 1 fret. So in G, that would be G, A, C, D, 1 more string. Awesome, that's good to hear. Okay, and now we're at the octave of G. Slide everything over, do it again. But this time we're at the border, we got to move over, and there's our G there. Go back. And we're back to G. And that works anywhere, whether you start at B flat, F sharp, it doesn't matter. 2 over, 2 strings down to the octave. Slide it all over, repeat. You should begin and end on the same note. So if you start G here, you will end on a G here. If you start A here, you will end on an A here. Right? Okay. All right, everybody. Again, let me know if there's anything, you know, what you thought of this, if it helped you. Just curious. And of course, if there's other things that you would like to know about, by all means, put them in the comments of any of the videos, or send me an email, whatever you want. And even though last week I did say we were going to, hey, no problem. There's more knowledge to be had, but a bit at a time, right? And I'm still gathering knowledge too. I'm still learning as well. So tonight I'm going to be doing some practicing on triads and using triads to solo and things like that. And so I'm always learning too. I just might be a little bit ahead of the curve than you guys. That's all. But you know, everybody's still learning, no matter who you are and what you do and how long you've been doing it, right? So hey, no problem. Everybody's welcome. So again, let me know if there's anything. Like, even as I said, even though last week I sort of said I would be talking about this today, I had someone this morning that said, hey, you know, like, I'm not sure about this. And I wrote right back. I said, make sure you're there today, because I'm going to be talking about this exact thing What am I playing tonight? Well, I'm working on my triads later on. I don't play a lot of triads. I started by just focusing on the triads I already knew, which I've shared with you, like those Ds and those, right? This kind of stuff. That kind of stuff. I want to learn another shape over a different string set, the major minor shapes, and it's kind of weird. It's this type of a shape here, right? It's a weird shape that you would move up and then flatten to make the minor. And I'm working on that, right? And you know, of course, I'll share with you when I've got it perfected. But I don't play triads very rarely, as I just mentioned. I play ones that are kind of obvious, that are common, open chords up the neck. I don't play a lot of bar chords. Okay. Yeah, it is. A lot of this stuff, like again, and some of this stuff you may not even need, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we all, for the most part, especially later in life, we pick up this guitar because we want to play some of our favorite songs and we just want to enjoy playing this instrument. And yeah, look, okay, I hear that a lot. Okay, I totally not agree. Okay, um, listen, hear me out. So the analogy would be, I mean, it goes for anything, but you're curious about something. So you ask someone, hey, I'm thinking about, I want to learn Windows 11, right? Can you show me a few things? Yeah, no problem, buddy. And he sits down and he starts going click, 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 do this, do that, do this, do. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't get it. All right. The analogy there is the person that told you about the triads is so right, but they're not for beginners because you need some theory. You really do. Like it's like he could show you shapes, right? Like here's a triad shape here. Okay? Now, what am I playing here? Okay, I'm playing a G triad. What am I playing here? I'm playing a G triad. Right? Now, what's the difference between this G triad or this G triad and this G chord that we learned? What's the difference? Okay? The difference is this G chord that we learned has the notes G, B, and D. The first, the third, and the fifth. Remember I explained that a little bit earlier. So a G chord is made up of a G, a B, and a D. Think about that. G, B, and D. That's a G chord. But why do we do this? Why do we play it? What's happening there? What are all those other things we're playing? There must be other notes in that. Well, let's take a look at it. G, B, open D, right? When we play the G chord, we play that open D. The next string down, we play open, and it's a G. Well, we play a G here, and now we have a G here. It's a note. It's an open string, but it's still a note, right? And then from the G, we play this string open. And what string is that? That's a B. And what note is that? That's a B. So far, we have played 5 strings in our G chord, but we've only played 3 notes. G, B, and D, but some of those notes we've played twice. And then the last one, we're playing a G because we're fretted at the 3rd fret. So when we strum all 6 strings of that G chord, we're only playing a G note, a B note, and a D note. Coincidentally, that's your triad. So if I just play the first 3 strings here, that's it, just those 3 strings, I'm playing a G chord, but I'm playing a triad. They're going to sound bassy because the 3 notes that I'm playing are the 3 lowest notes of the G chord. But it's a triad. Okay? So your friend is absolutely right. Triads, once you play triads, you're only worried about the 3 notes. That's why they also sound a little bit weaker, thinner, I think is the word, thinner, because you're only playing 3 notes of that G. Now, another G triad would be like this, right? Because it'd be what they call an inverted triad. Something like that, right? But you're only playing the 3 notes. You're playing the G, the D, and the B. B, D, G, right? Triad. So here I'm playing the highest strings of that G. Here I'm playing the lowest strings, but I'm only playing 3. I'm not playing them all together. All right, and every chord is like that. There are D triads. So in a D triad, I'm only going to play D, F, A, D, F, A, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. So I have to know where my D, F, and A's are on the fretboard to play that triad. That's why they're not easy. You got to know. But of course, if from day one you learnt that way and someone showed you, which you could, like bar chords, right? One shape, A. They don't tell you what notes you're fretting or playing. They just say that's an A bar chord. And if you keep that shape and you move it up 2, you got a B. But again, they don't tell you what notes you're playing. They just tell you to move up that shape. So in theory, someone can show you a triad shape like this and just tell you, just do this and you're playing an E. Just do this and you're playing an F. Just do this and you're playing a G. And that's cool until it isn't. Until you have to find a different voicing for a chord. So in other words, if I played using this, if I played D, C, G, okay, I gotta go. That C here was kind of high, right? Just like bar chords. If I play an F and then I want to go get a C and I come down here, it's kind of way higher, right? So what I would do is ideally, if you're going to play triads, you're not going to slide all the way up the neck to get the next chord. You're going to change the shape and grab the chord in the same area of the fretboard. And that requires knowledge, right? You got to know. So if I want to play a G here, then I know that I got to play this, right? D, G. So your friend is right. And it's just like those people. If you ask me how to do, or if I ask you how to do something that you know how to do really well, and you've gone through all this stuff, and you realize that, well, the best way to cook those eggs is this way. And here I am as a beginner. Hey, how do I cook eggs? Oh, you got to do it this way. But your way is very more maybe demanding and physically challenging and mentally challenging. But it is the easiest way. That's my point here. I hope you understand that he's not wrong, but I just don't believe that triads and bar chords are for beginners. I think that you play your open chords. That's the foundation of everything, is to play open chords. And then you work your way up from there. That's my belief. I think because at the end of the day, and I did this, at the end of the day, if you just play and learn your open chords, you can play any song you want for the most part. Okay, there's going to be the odd exception where you have some bar chords, but you can a lot of times use a capo to capo up to avoid those bar chords. Okay, so if you can play all your open chords, you can play a vast majority of all the songs out there. Okay, now that's the first reason to, to really learn the open chords. Hey, no problem, Sherry. I hope it helps. Everything else is kind of like an evolution of that. Okay, I mean, if you just play open chords, you can play any song, pretty much, right? As I just mentioned, you can write songs. You can play gigs. I was playing gigs at a local coffee shop and a cafe every Sunday afternoon. And I'm not lying. I didn't understand what keys were. And here I was sitting in the corner of this cafe doing quite well, playing songs from the 70s, playing a couple. I'd started writing, played a couple of my own songs. People were tipping me, hey, good stuff, man. Yeah, there's that. I didn't know how to play bar chords, maybe a B minor. That's it. I knew nothing about triads, scales, keys, no theory whatsoever. I couldn't play up the neck at all, but I could sit there and entertain. All because I knew my open chords, right? And I played, honestly, I don't even know how long. So the first 2 times I played was a year each time. I quit for about 3, 4, 5 months in between each one. So that's almost 3 years went by. Then when I came back and just concentrated on my open chords, I probably played another 2 years, really refined, like really getting my strumming down and get all my chord changes down, figure out different ways to play the G, like I play my G this way now. That all came. I didn't start that way. I didn't play my A like this. I played it like that. Now I switched to this because for various reasons. Now I have these fingers open to play some chords or some notes if I want to. All these things started. So now I'm playing probably 5 years. And I knew nothing about theory at all. Someone would say, and there was always that one guy, right? Say, oh, by the way, we're going to play in the key of D, right? Oh, and of course, Ray, do you know what the third chord is in the key of D? Come on, what is it, Ray? Come on. And I'm like, I have no idea what the third chord is in the key of D. And maybe not many of you know, okay? I had no idea. Now I know, but I didn't know then. I didn't know the relevance. Why should I know this? So don't think that you got to know all there is to know about music and theory and guitar and everything. You don't, right? So again, your friend is right, but I wouldn't go down that path if I were you. I would learn your open chords, understand how songs are written and put together. Even chord progressions. There's a reason when you see chord progressions, there's a reason those chords, there's a reason why you'll always see something like this, right? C, G, A minor, F. C, G, A minor, F. Hey, you're welcome. I hope it helps. There's a reason. Okay? Or there's a reason that you'll always see those 4 chords, or I can go on and on. E, A, E, A, D, E, There's a reason, because they sound good together. They're proven, right? So here's the deal. You write a song in the key of C. So you can use C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. There's 7 chords. We usually just use the 6th, the diminished very rarely. Jazz, very diminishing. If you're looking for a different kind of weird sort of sound maybe at the end to create some tension to flip back over to the main chord, you'd use a diminished. But let's take those 6 chords. So now there's only 6 chords if you're writing a song in the key of C. And there are how many songs out there? Millions and millions of songs, of which about 50% are written in the key of C. So that means there's millions of songs in the key of C in all genres of music that share those 6 chords. Okay, 7, just for the heck of it. But think about that. You're going to find repetition. And the reason that you're going to see those 3 together all the time, or those 3 together, or those 3, because they're proven hit songs. They're proven chord progressions. Yeah, we could make a chord progression out of E minor, D minor, C, E minor, D minor, C, D minor, D minor, and C. Can you make a hit song out of that? There probably is somewhere. But if you really analyze all the hit songs and what their chord progressions are, you'll probably find those 3 chords to be on the lowest end of where, you know what I mean? But you'll probably find these to be more widely used, CFG. And there's a reason, right? So when you break everything down, it's not a big world. It's not a big ocean. It's actually kind of a small ocean with a lot of fish swimming in it. And if you pick the right combination of chords or the right combination of notes, like in a lead or to make your melody over the chords, you got a hit song. If you're 1 or 2 off, you don't have a hit song. It's that simple. So there's a reason why there's so many, like, I don't know, all these new Ed Sheeran, Bruno Mars, whatever. They all use the same chord progressions that were used back in the 60s by the Motown artists. The big writing was Lamont and Dozier. D, G, A, and F. Yes, you can play. All right, so you can play D, G, right? You tell me. You can. Now, it would depend on the key that you're in, right? Because you've got 4 major keys there. So normally in a key, you're only going to have 4 major chords there. And normally in a key, right, you have 3 major and 3 minor. So one of those, depending on what key you're in, one of those chords that you just mentioned would have to be a minor, right? And it would change depending on what key that you're in. Now, there are exceptions. There are things like we talked about, relative majors and minors, and then there are what they call borrowing or sharing a chord from another key. So you're playing in a key, let's say you're in the key of C, but you want to play an E. Now, an E is not in the key of C, it's an E minor. But because of a certain rule, you're allowed to bring the E in with the C. It's not common. It's going to often create kind of a different type of feel. but it can be done. So the answer to your question is yes, you can. But as far as sticking to the rules, no. One of those would have to be some sort of a minor chord, depending on which key you're in, right? So I can't remember the chords you said, but if you were in the key of G, then that F would have to be an F sharp. Yeah, G, A, G, A, B, C sharp. It would be a D. Yeah, it would be an F sharp, right? Now, if you're in the key of C, the F is okay, the G is okay, the A would have to be a minor. You see what I mean? Like, and that's theory. Like, that's just knowing your theory. So if you don't know, then you would play, and you could probably, depending on what order those chords were in, you could get away with it. There's no I mean, it didn't sound bad if I played C, G, A. Yeah, that F kind of messes me up there on that, but yeah, yeah. But that's where theory comes in. So if you were writing a song, you would probably get to the point where, hey, you know what? I got to change this. I got to change one of these. Okay? So, all right. Well, again, I hope everything was satisfactory. We'll see you again. Keep your comments open. Keep your eyes open. I got some videos uploading later on. Sometimes I jump on and play some songs throughout over the weekend, so watch for that. If you subscribe, you'll get notified when I come live. And like the other night, I came on, I played just about, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 songs, some I'd written. And I just do that and then I disappear. And so if you want to check that out too, you're more than welcome. And if you subscribe, you'll get notified. If not, again, any comments, suggestions, send them my way. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. The channel keeps growing and growing, and it's great. No complaints at all. I love what I do, and I hope I'm helping some of you out there. And we'll see you again soon. So bye for now.